Hey everybody, and welcome back to the internet, and it's time for some more story time. For those of you who didn't notice, last night I put up an Ask Reddit video, so the plan for right now at least is to upload storytime videos in the morning/afternoon, and then an Ask Reddit video sometime in the evening or at night, so we'll see how this works out. So today's first story is from Malicious Compliance called No Breaks for My Shift? Got it. So I work part-time at a pharmacy chain, and recently our store got a new manager. We'll call her NM for short. Well, NM is one of the most power trip bosses I've ever had. She always has to enforce whatever rules she can think of. For example, one of my coworkers had to switch with someone for a family emergency. When they told NM, she reluctantly agreed, but the next schedule she put out, she had an announcement saying once the schedules are posted, no changes or switches were allowed. So for my malicious compliance, we'll start with how my former boss used to provide longer shifts. Usually 6-hour shifts to ensure we get a good length-worthy shift as well as a 15-minute break without a lunch. Typically, even if we'd only work 4-hour shifts, he'd still give us a break. For full shifts longer than 7 hours, we'd get a break as well as a lunch. If we had a 4-hour shift, all the supervisors would still make sure we'd get a small break. I believe for most of us it made us feel like a much better environment as we got a mental break from customers. Our customer service scores would back that up. Our former boss gets transferred, and slowly but surely, NM starts giving us 4-hour shifts that everyone can work throughout the week. She eventually posted a notice, our state laws on meals and breaks allowed from now on. One of them said, any shift that is 4 hours or less does not require a break. The other said, any shift that is 4 to 6 hours requires a break of 15 minutes. This policy takes place effective immediately. Everyone was kinda mad because of the new rule, but had no other choice but to agree. Her words were, we need to follow policy, not to break the rules. This one shift was just me and NM for 4 hours, where after the 4th hour I had to leave and NM would stay by herself for 30 minutes till the next coverage would come in. We ended up having a huge line as my last 10 minutes were up on my shift. Her expectations was, I'm assuming, was for me to stay, then clock out. Those 10 minutes were up and I had just finished a customer, so I say, I'm out, have a good shift. And M says, can you help me with the line, then leave? I said, sorry, I didn't get a break and I don't want to break policy by working and not getting one. I proceed to clock out right as I hit that 4th hour. As I walked out, I could tell she had this look on her face that she knew she lost. I ended up telling my other coworkers, and now they're all clocking out right on the exact time their 4th hour is completed, even if she's asked to stay a couple minutes longer. It even went as far as one of us having to take a break after our 4th hour completed, only to leave 15 minutes later. See, if you treat your employees badly, they're gonna treat you badly back, so it's kind of a two-way street. I think some employers think that they have all of the say when it comes to making the decisions, but it can go both ways and it can come back to bite you. So this next story is from r/I don't work here lady. And it's called, I had an I don't work here lady moment while telling an I don't work here story. So from 2010 until 2014, I worked a walk-in, quick-style salon in the largest shopping center of an extremely small town. The salon was located 2 doors down from the dollar store, and we also shared a parking lot with the Walmart on one end, and 4 fast food restaurants on the other end. Being unmedicated/undiagnosed ADHD, I completed my haircuts with speed and accuracy, all the while chatting up all the clients, not just mine, doing chores and making store runs for the other girls. Anytime you wear an apron to a store with an apron in the uniform, you'll get mistaken for an employee. Doesn't matter that the store's apron is bright green and mine is glitter black vinyl, or zebra stripe, or my favorite, paisley one tie-dye background. One such day I was standing in the back of the line at checkout, arms filled with candy, using my incredibly vivid apron as a sling to carry a verified crap ton of super cheap junk food. I turned to look for the child wailing in the distance of the store and confirmed it was a fit and not abuse. When I turned back to face the line, I found the elderly lovely lady in front of me chuckling to herself. She met my eyes saying, I just did a cartoon like triple take when I saw you behind me. She giggles a little. I saw the apron when I looked for the crying baby. I started to turn back around to ask you something and realized your apron wasn't uniform. But then I had to really look at your apron. I think my daughter-in-law, who's a beauty operator, who love it. I thank her for the compliment and wrote the name of the website I got the apron from down for her. She chuckled again about almost mistaking me for an employee. I told her, it happens every other time I come in here, but most people are pretty nice when I tell them I don't work here. But I'm here often enough I could probably find it anyway. She tells me that's very sweet, and then her eyes dart towards my shoulder. I realize someone has been clearing her throat from behind me for some time. I thought it was the next customer until she tapped my shoulder. I turned, arms filled with a diabetic coma. She steps back, already turning red, realizing her mistake. She starts apologizing. The woman in front of me laughs so hard she has to lean on the counter for support. I try to explain to the Karen what we had just been talking about as she looks mortified. I explain the woman is laughing at the irony, not her mistake. I politely ask what she was looking for in the first place and sent her in that direction. She again apologizes and thanks me profusely, backing away. The lady in front and I started to giggle to ourselves for both of our transactions. She came back to the salon with me and left me a $20 too for my style, good attitude, and how I handled myself. She was one of my regulars until I left some years later. Hey, sometimes we meet friends in the most unsuspecting of places. Maybe she should just take off her apron when she leaves the store, if she doesn't want to be mistaken all the time. Alright, this one is called The Break That Went On Forever, another malicious compliance story. So I worked at a factory with a supervisor who liked to throw her weight around. She was also desperately trying to get noticed by the higher-ups, so she did her best to put up our numbers each shift. Our team had 75% more production than other teams, but it came at a price. She made us skip breaks or take longer whenever there was a setback to the production. Like a machine broke or we noticed a fault in the product and had to throw a bunch away. We were all disposable workers, so we put up with it for quite some time because we didn't want to get fired. But eventually she started to piss us off. Every time we were on break, she'd make comments like, "Don't forget it's only 15 minutes long," or "Don't sit too long." Or if we were a minute late, she would yell at us, "Don't slack off, you're not getting paid to sit." Several people on the team needed more time each break. One was pregnant and had to pee every 5 seconds. One was on menopause, and one just had difficulty walking to and from the break room. So you get the picture. People were late every time, and the supervisor would yell every time. Eventually she said, "From now on, I'll come get you all each break, and I decide when it starts and when it's over." So every break she would fetch us, leave for a bit, and come back after 15 minutes to tell us our break is over and go back to work. So the malicious compliance. So one day she had to leave to do something during our break. I don't remember what exactly, just that it would take her about an hour to get back. She came to get us, said, "Your break is starting now," and went to do her thing. After 15 minutes, one of my coworkers made a move to get up and go back to work, but he got stopped by another. Coworker 2 says, "We have to wait for the supervisor to tell us the break is over, remember?" Coworker 1 says, "But she'll be gone for an hour, how could she..." Oh, says, "Enjoy the hour-long break, guys." We sat for an hour, and when the supervisor got back, she was pissed. She launched into a tirade about how we screwed up her numbers for production, we're all lazy and incompetent, etc. That's when coworker 2 got up. "You said you were the one who decides how long our breaks are, right? When they're over and when we have to get back to work? Well, we've spent an hour here waiting for you to tell us that it's over. Let's get back to work, guys." And we all walked back to our stations. I swear I could hear supervisor burst a blood vessel from frowning so hard. The reason this compliance is malicious is we knew she cared a lot about those numbers, and us sitting around would screw it up. We wanted to teach her a lesson. Don't try to enforce stupid rules. Wow, these two malicious compliance stories were, strikingly similar. Yeah, just don't mess with your employees' breaks. They'll come after you. So this story is from Petty Revenge called "Block a Seat, Miss the Stop." So I live in a small European county where the public transport is the easiest and most convenient option to get from A to B. The trams in my city have a variety of seats. Single seats, seats for 2, and seats for 4. I've noticed in the past few years, people have come up with the most annoying habit to sit on the seat in the aisle seat and leave with the window seat free. This always annoys me, especially when the opposite 2 seats are occupied, so when you want to sit, you have to climb over people. So last week, during rush hour, I entered the tram and there was only 1 seat left. It was a window seat, of course, but it wasn't really free. The guy in the one aisle seat had his backpack on the seat next to him. People have their stuff on the seats all the time, but usually move it when the tram starts to get full. Every decent person would do that, right? Well, not this guy. So I walked up to him and looked at him with the most judgmental expression. My coworkers tell me all the time that I'm extremely good at making them feel guilty just by looking at them. But it didn't work with this guy. He chose to ignore me. Usually I don't have a problem with telling people how stupid they are, but I didn't say anything. I'm not sure why. I just stood there, blocking the aisle, and staring at him. 2 stops after I got in, he wanted to get out. Now, I was still there, in the aisle and blocking it. He grabbed his backpack, stood up, and looked at me. I noticed it and chose to ignore him. A few seconds of him staring at me and me ignoring him passed before he said, "Excuse me?" And I moved so he could pass. The thing is, the tram doesn't stop for very long. Usually, especially during rush hour, people make their way to the doors even before the tram stops, but this guy didn't. I can only guess he wanted to have his backpack enjoy the experience of blocking a seat until the very last moment. He only got up after the tram stopped and then had to have me excuse him so that when he arrived at the doors they were already locked. I tried to keep my grin at a decent level when I took the seat at the window. Oh man, this story could have ended up on last night's video about the things you see on public transport. I mean, in all honesty, the guy probably deserves it. So the next story is Entitled Parents, called Entitled Mother Tells Me and My Girlfriend to Leave the Mall. So my stepmom gave me $20 for Easter. No reason for it really, just being nice I guess. So I decided to spend it on my girlfriend. I texted her right when I got the money that I was going to take her to the mall and asked if she needed a ride, yada yada. We arrived today at about 3 p.m. and we plan on staying till 7. For a good 1.5 hours we walk around and figure out what we should spend my money on and have a good time. We're chatting and laughing, having all sorts of fun. Then arrives our entitled mom. At this point we're in the food court grabbing Subway because we're both hungry. Entitled mom comes up to our table huffing and puffing, obviously upset at something. She starts the conversation. She says, "I'm going to need you two to leave the mall. The clothes this girl is wearing are slutty and I don't want my child to see that." I'm shocked and look over to see that my girlfriend is offended. And no, the clothes she wore weren't slutty. She was wearing black leggings and an Adidas hoodie. I say, "Excuse me? She was not wearing anything slutty. Her entire body is covered with clothes." She says, "No, those pants she's wearing expose her slutty butt and she's trying to get attention from dudes. Please leave this mall or I will get security." At this point my girlfriend is feeling embarrassed and is sort of tugging at my sleeve, which was on the table, as to indicate she wanted to leave. I nod my head to tell her no, I'm not going to back off. I say, "Lady, I don't know what you're thinking, but she definitely isn't trying to attract any guys. You go get security. I absolutely guarantee that they will be on my side." She then storms off and I watch in amusement as she looks for security, but then I realize that she left a 2-year-old looking child sitting by himself. My girlfriend and I talk about what we should do to protect the child, and we end up saying we'll only protect it if someone other than the entitled mom comes to get him. We finished our subs and, not to my surprise, entitled mom hasn't found any security yet. We decide to stay and keep her child safe while she was wherever getting security. When she finally does come back, she has 2 Sephora bags. And guess what? No security. And she's looking angry as heck. She storms up to her table and sets herself along with her bags down. My girlfriend and I chuckle, and then leave and enjoy our time. Man, was this crazy lady just looking for somebody to babysit her kids while she ran around the mall? And on to the final story for today, called Entitled Parent Wants to Know What I'm Doing in My Home, then demands I stop so I can do errands for her in the morning. So quick summary. Crazy Pants was my incredibly nosy and entitled neighbor with 2 adult children who were spoiled and greedy. This woman seriously believed she was in charge of everyone in my street. A little background for this. Years ago I moved back home to help my mom look after my dad as she was struggling. My dad has multiple conditions. Angina, diabetes, and arthritis amongst them. Then sadly my mom passed away, so my dad was completely on his own. My dad could fill a subreddit all on his own with stories, as he has a foul mouth and is known for being a complete jerk to people who annoy him. But he can't get around like he used to and relies on me now to keep him out of trouble and keep things ticking. Thankfully, because my job is from home, I can look after him. Now, sometimes the people I work for are based in other countries, so when I talk to them online, it can be late at night or early in the morning because of time difference. So Crazy Pants' children did not live with her. The daughter doesn't work, while the son owns some of the property near us and rents it out. They are very well off, having both married into money. Meanwhile, I don't get a lot of free time because I work. I'm a carer for the grumpiest yet somehow lovable gift on the planet, and I have my own chronic illness on top. Now to the main story. So I had just been talking with a client. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was downstairs. The living room light of course was on, because I'm not an owl. I was typing up something when there was a banging on the door. I was worried, as we had in the past had drunks at our door, mistaking our house for some friend's place. Then you never know what they may do. I open it carefully, and there's Crazy Pants. You can guess the key here. She says, "Excuse me, why are you awake?" I say, "Sorry?" She says, "I want to know why you're awake." I say, did we wake you or something?" No noise had been made, and there was no way Crazy Pants would have seen our light on without leaving the house. In fact, she would often step out and do late-night inspections of the street like she was looking for contraband. She says, "I don't think you should be up this late. Why are you up?" I say, "I don't think it's any of your business, but since you asked so sweetly, I'm working." She says, "But it's 2 a.m. And I say, "And it's my home. Are you just pointing out random facts? Because this game is boring me. She says, you should be asleep. I say, and yet here you are, wide awake. Isn't it a miracle? We should form a club. She says, I'm supposed to be going to the hairdresser at 10 a.m. and I don't want you too tired. Now this has me super confused and I don't know how to respond for a few moments. I say, excuse me? What does your hair appointment have to do with me? Well, I was going to get you to drive me to it. My kids have important things to do and you already do a lot for that very rude man. The least you could do as a neighbor is give me a lift. I say, what the? Are you completely off your rocker? She says, what's the problem? You do stuff for your father all the time. I say, I would also like to point out, I don't drive, let alone own a car, and even if I was up for letting you sit on the handlebars of my bike, why would I be taking you to the hairdressers? You have a daughter and a son with multiple fancy cars. Get one of them to take you, or get a taxi and stop bothering me over what I can do in my own home. She says, but they work. Yeah, right. I can't bother them. You are home all day. He's like, I work from home, like I was doing before you banged on the door. Now please go away. It was at that point I discovered my dad had been woken up and was now leaning out the bedroom window listening to the whole thing. He says, Crazy Pants, why don't you mind your own freaking business and piss off? Crazy Pants scurries away upon the sight of Grumpy Dad's man nipples and I go back inside. The next day, the daughter arrived to take Mother Dearest to the hairdresser. I was coming out to walk the dog and got the death stares from them both. At this point, my dad opened the living room window and shouted at Crazy Pants, and get your freaking mustache waxed. Thanks for making it less awkward, Dad. Man, this sounds like an exciting neighborhood. It's better than mine. I don't think I've ever even spoken to any of my neighbors living here for like 2.5 years. Anyways, that does it for today's stories. Stick around to find out what the question of the day is tonight. So I will talk to you guys later, and thanks for watching.